Hello everybody, and welcome to TMI Live number 29, Essential McLuhan. I'm back in here for another Tuesday night, documenting the library of Eric McLuhan. If you haven't tuned in before, I'm indeed sitting in Eric McLuhan's library in the building we call the Scriptorium, and every Tuesday night I come in and do a little bit of work in here, documenting, inventorying his library, which is around 6,000 volumes, and I'm not very far in, but I'm doing what I can for a couple hours. Rodrigo, hola, every Tuesday night. So here I am. I wasn't sure exactly what I would do this week, but as I've just finished up a series of books, maybe we'll talk about those for a minute. The book in question is Essential McLuhan, which is an anthology edited by Eric McLuhan and Frank Cingroni. This copy here is the first edition. It was, this particular one is an advanced author's copy. In fact, there's a note to that effect here. I posted a bunch of the other editions on Instagram, the McLuhan Institute Instagram, McInstitute, if you want to follow along. This says, October 18th, 1995. Dear Eric, we're delighted to send you this advanced copy of your book, Essential McLuhan, which we've just received. Your other authors' copies are being mailed to you and should be to you soon. Congratulations on your excellent achievement. I'm proud to have worked with you and Frank in producing this book, and looking forward to working with you to get it into the hands of the public. I'm sure you'll agree that all our efforts have been well worthwhile. All the best to you as you begin the next phase in the publishing process. Sincerely yours, Donald G. Bastian, Managing Editor, Stoddard Publishing. And I saw that actually, and it reminded me that I was supposed to talk to Don yesterday about another thing. Stoddard folded. It ceased being a publisher, and Don Bastian kind of went out on his own, and my dad used him as an editor, general editor, for much of his work, and Don later set up himself as a sort of print-on-demand facilitator, and Don helped him put out a few books that way, including the Human Equation series, which Dad wrote with Wayne Constantino. And that's why I wanted to talk to Don, because 3 of the 5 books of the Human Equation have been published. Books 4 and 5 are supposedly done or should be done. And some people have asked me. I've been curious, so I've been trying to track down Don to find out what the deal is with that. And I forgot to call him on Monday because it's a holiday, so I'm going to have to reach out again. Anyway, this edition has a signature from Frank Cingroni, who we called Uncle Frank when I was growing up, which is nice. 1995, that puts it 7 years after Dad had Laws of Media published, which was Dad's first major McLuhan book. I think this is probably his second major McLuhan work, and it's an anthology of 4 parts. Part 1, Culture as Business, has a lot to do with advertising, Mechanical Bride, things like that. Part 2, Print and Electric Revolution. Part 3, Oral McLuhan, includes reprint of Address at Vision 65, Playboy Interview, etc. And Part 4, Culture and Art, Figures and Grounds. And looking at all the things in here, it runs just over 400 pages. I should probably revisit this because there's some things in here that look really good. And relevant to my own current interest, because I've just started writing my own first McLuhan book. But anyway, this looks good. There's also, Emily, if you're watching, you left a little note in here. My sister Emily says, Dad, opened your package. I couldn't resist. Book looks awesome. Congratulations, Emily. Isn't that nice? And Dad kept it in there, of course. The other thing that's of note that was tucked in here in typical Marshall and Eric McLuhan style is a review of the book. This is a review of the book by Philip Marchand, no less, who wrote the first biography of Marshall McLuhan around that time, maybe a little bit later. Hello, other people. And hi, Christine. Hi, Christine and Veronica. Capturing McLuhan in Print. Marshall McLuhan, English professor and media analyst who died in 1980, was never a conventional writer or academic. The spirit of eccentricity, in fact, still seems to hover over his posthumous career. This is interesting because it's 1995, and in 1995, it's still sort of the McLuhan Dark Ages. For those who know and for those who don't, Marshall McLuhan was at kind of the height of his fame in the late 60s, mid-60s. It started to go down in the later 60s. He sort of fell off the map in the 70s in popular media, and he died in New Year's Eve 1980. And in the decades following, it was, I think we can call it the Dark Ages of McLuhan because it was really... it's a whole thing to get into, but Marshall McLuhan wasn't treated very well in academia, and he still isn't in a lot of places, although I believe it's getting better. There's a lot of awful stories, really, but whatever. Around this time, actually, things started to turn around a bit, and that was because he started being unavoidable, because the things he was talking about in the 60s, when the internet came of age, were all of a sudden obvious. And it's important to keep in mind that he wasn't predicting the internet. He wasn't talking about the 90s, the 2000s, our present time. He was talking mostly about his time then, but it was just that today it's plain to us, which begs a question, several questions. Anyway, this is an interesting, I haven't read through it. Be careful, cautions Eric McLuhan, who has joined Zingroni to talk about the book. The lethal politics of universities is something his father knew well. I'm biting my tongue, replies Zingroni, who nevertheless plunges on. Frank Zingroni worked at York University. Quote, there is a social sciences mystique to the university, where the university is perceived as a series of sociological problems, or the university is perceived as job training center, McLuhan adds. The students aren't stupid. They know that's a lot of hogwash, says my dad. Again, as much as it is slightly an embarrassment, McLuhan's son comments, the Playboy article is still one of the very best things to catch the sense of the oral McLuhan. And the article finishes from Dad. We thought we were not just putting this together for university students, we were putting it together for people in the arts, in the new technologies. It was a very broad audience. Anyway, maybe I'll post, actually I think I did post a photo of that review if you want to check it out. Moving on, the next thing in my stack to document is Cynic Satire by Eric McLuhan. This was a piece he developed many, many years ago, but only managed to get published, 2012? 2015, by an outfit called Cambridge Scholars Press, who priced it out of most people's market, unfortunately. And it's a very interesting book which documents a peculiar kind of satire which is known as cynic satire or Menippean satire. There's a picture of Mr. Menippus himself right there, this is a very scholarly work, and honestly haven't read it, and it's another thing I should read. There was one other thing I'd wanted to get to, and I realize this is going to take me over my usual 15 minutes, but coming back to this box of letters of Corinne's, I cut off the last one I read because it started getting a little spicy, and I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to read or to read to you. But I went through and picked out another one, and it's a touching letter, so I'm going to read it to you. It's postmarked Fort Worth, November 9th, 12:30 p.m., 1938, Fort Worth, Texas, from Corinne Lewis in Fort Worth to Mr. Marshall McLuhan, 4343 McPherson, St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm much more familiar with Marshall's handwriting, so I wasn't able to make out a few words, but I'm going to read this to you because it's a sweet letter, and I love reading about their relationship because they were very, very much in love, passionately in love, and fascinated with each other. Again, keep in mind that Corinne McLuhan is a Southern lady of the time, and her, I'm not going to attempt her accent, but Monday, ho ho, my fine fella. You really must get yourself measured for optic aids, or perhaps you hadn't noticed. My glowing orbs happen to be brown or greenish, habits of a chameleon, not, quote, bonny blue. She's apparently Marshall called her eyes brown or green, no, Marshall called them a bonny blue when they're brown or greenish. And I need glasses too. Don't bother to read It Can Happen Here unless your intellectual thirstiness would imbibe a huge draft of American political machine, as it is now, as it was about 5 years back, as it will, ? Be. I read it from a sense of duty. One of the tasks, Casa Mariana was based in 37. Sorry. I must admit, not reluctantly, that my enthusiasm for Sinclair Lewis isn't even lukewarm. Dear me, what makes you think I'd ever so errantly expose my own, quote, sensibilities as to serve you an original poem, labeled as such? I wouldn't want to feel responsible for the intellectual indigestion it might provoke. I absolutely cannot confine my free spirits, cannot limit my chirographic art to its proper place on one half the page as 'twas intended. It's like being smothered in a tiny room with low ceilings. Your diatribe on my poetic penchants justly hit its mark. Do you recall my complaining last summer of feeling outgrown my earlier literary loves? Perhaps I might, to some degree, since you mention the matter, promote the, quote, lending library by endearing you with some rolls of paper and some lightly colored twine, ? You're awfully sweet. Don't strike. And thoughtful to want to send Eliot to me. T.S. Eliot. Of course, I wouldn't mind the dusty charges. I love to have the book pause while I have a date to see Suze. Quits unenthusiastically. Later. Ho-hum. Process of yawning. Suze was very good entertainment, historically inaccurate but pleasing in its beauty. Suez? I think that's Suez. Tuesday. You seem to have some very promising freshman material, clever and vital. How much I thought I knew when I was a freshman. Delusions of grandeur. It ain't no justice for you to have so many extra holidays. However, if you continue to use them to expand your epistolary triumphs, I suppose their existence is justified. You're a composite of many strange contradictions. Sorry, I can't make out that word. You're a composite of many strange contradictions, some of which are quite inexplicable. Perhaps I take you too seriously? ... question mark. I admire you tremendously, Marshall. Not only your mental equipage, amazing essays of which I occasionally appear, law of averages at work, no doubt, or your quite real intellectual curiosity, your sane and sincere attitude toward religion, your sparks of fun, a belief in your future. It's something more what you stand for, all bound together, integrated with the very vital encircling flame of your personality. I'm not being very clear, am I? Question mark. Shall I keep going? I'll keep going. Mama and Sis are carrying on a heated discussion. We're expecting a flock of distant relatives for the weekend, and they're discussing the whens and wheres. A bit of context, this is before Marshall and Corinne are quite married. I won't answer your letter in kind per request. It's laryngitis has fled. The laryngitis has fled, and my errant spirits are wandering back, after a fashion, getting case-hardened, I presume. I know teaching is a vocation with you, one that you enjoy. My university teaching was too. I would give a great deal to resume it. Such a difference between that and high school teaching. You never fully realize it till you try it. A few days are really joys, but the entire phase is difficult. A matter, of course, of have-to attitude of students. A matter of have-to attitude of students rather than the eager, search for knowledge spirit of a university. Pause while I go back to school. Open house tonight. We have fun. We have been dreading it for days. Public teacher exhibitions, affairs. 11 p.m. Phew! What a load off my mind. And no comments, please. My face literally aches from benevolent grins at little cherubs and ma's and pa's. All the how smart Susie is and how talented Johnny is stuff via parents. All over, though, there's an end to all evils continually. One of these occurrences that are coarse in anticipation and then worse in anticipation than in actuality. Do you have much trouble deciphering my scrawl? Yes, I do, Grandma. Your package came today, and I'm overjoyed. The prospect of diving in is almost too much for my willpower, though I must get my schoolwork first. I'm already lacking something extra, especially to our holiday Friday. You're really a darling, you know, just on very rare occasions, of course. I really do thank you very much. I'll return in the order read, so don't worry about them. They'll be well taken care of, too. I value my books too highly to misuse anyone else's. You may relax now. Conscious self-development is not entirely devoid of a good result if one does not have merely the objective of something up the personality, something on glamour, influencing people, becoming the most popular, etc., a la your hero, Dale Carnegie. Was Dale Carnegie Marshall's hero at that time? Apparently. How to Win Friends and Influence People was a big book of his at the time, I think. Any seed conscientiously planted and painstakingly watered will bear fruit. Perhaps not so luscious as one would desire, but fruit. Something religion, as appealed to merely churchful habits, does enrich and expand one's living. I'm afraid I don't consider my, quote, religion enough. I go to church, sing in the choir. I don't mean that, of course. It's rather in a cold storage state. I yank it out when I feel the driving, overwhelmingly need. Please believe me, I don't mean to be irreverent. I'm merely trying to be frank with myself as well as with you. That may be a cause of my recent restlessness and dissatisfaction, sense of futility, ... Don't shorten sail in your letters, please. As it is, I always dread their having to end, not flattery, believe me. The Dallas Convention is quite insignificant, but I'm afraid the Thanksgiving trip can't assume reality. Alas and alack, woe is me. Why, just think, I might even begin to forget what you look like. Brief memory, something, etc. Did you finally hit upon the substitute course? What is it to be? My dear enfant, here would be nothing at all incongruous concerning your appearance on Fort Worth. To visit one's friends is not exactly viewed with askance by Emily Post even. Entertaining guests is not such an uncommon occurrence as to cause to assume the aspect of a phenomenon. A formal declaration, ? Bless your heart. So that's the worry. Rest at ease. You should know I shouldn't allow your innocuous intentions to be misguided, even in anyone's mind. After all, I do have a variety of underlined friends whom I dash around. Hold on a second. I do have a variety of friends with whom I dash around something. Shotguns haven't formed the habit of appearing here socially. Interesting. Seems to be dancing around the subject of proposing and asking for hand in marriage or declaring intentions, etc. Seriously though, Marshall, I can't imagine anything more marvelous than being with you again. I've really treasured every moment I've spent with you. Why don't you pledge to come down? We'd love to have you. I don't dare think of it because I don't want to take the risk of being so awfully disappointed. So plan something! ! Must tumble into bed. After all, tomorrow's a school day. Sweetest dreams. Love, Corinne. Isn't that sweet? Anyway, that's way over my time, but I wanted to read you that. And now I'm going to keep documenting books. If you want to catch past episodes, the McLuhan Institute on YouTube has more, and the McLuhan Institute on Instagram and Twitter and here on Facebook. And thanks for being here and supporting what I'm doing. It means the world. Love you guys.